Welcome to the Becoming Sound podcast, where we dive into the tough stuff and try to find the humor in the hot mess of being an adult child. Join me as we peel back the layers on growing up in dysfunction, navigating substance abuse, mental health challenges, and everything in between. Hi, friends, and thanks for joining me on the Becoming Sound podcast. I'm Christy, your host, and if you like what you hear today, especially if you love someone that is struggling with addiction right now, this episode is going to resonate. So please share it with someone that you love, and please give us a follow, a rating, a review. It really means a lot to me, and it really boosts the content of this podcast and gets it out to people who really need it. So today my guest is Joanna Miranda, and she is a mom of 5, and she became a single mother after losing her husband of 16 years to addiction. And now she has open and honest conversations around difficult topics so that people can find their voice and learn to inhale and exhale faster than she did. She is also a women's health and fitness and hormone coach and an advocate for others. And she shares her healing journey as well as helps other women find their truth, their inner peace, and health, both physically and emotionally. I love how real Joanna is and how openly and honestly she speaks about addiction and its effects on the loved ones and the family members. It isn't always easy or pretty, but absolutely necessary. So I am so honored to have her here with me today. So let's get started. Welcome, Joanna. I'm so excited to have you here today. How are you doing?
I'm great. I had a great workout this morning. I made sure to get that movement in,
Yeah,
breakfast, shower, got my kids all settled. I'm ready to go.
amazing. And you are the mom of 5 kids. First of all, like hats off to you, lady. That's a
It's a
lot.
lot. It's a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. But amazing. So, I actually just scrolled past one of your posts one day a few
Mm,
months ago, and I started following you, and just the brutal honesty and the realness was what attracted me to the messages that you were sending out, because there's so many people that aren't talking about this, and when they are, it's coming more and more, but there's a lot of fluff still, and people
yeah.
don't want to hear the truth
Yeah.
because it hurts, it's hard, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So take us back a little bit and just explain a little bit of your story and
hmm
kind of what brought you talking in the addiction arena.
Yeah. First of all, I'm very excited to be here. I really am. I feel honored. So anytime I get any kind of a platform,
Hmm.
I always tell myself, I told myself, if I ever got brave enough to talk about what addiction did to me and to
Hmm.
my family, not only my husband that we lost, but me, but my 5 children, if I ever got brave enough to actually put language to it, that I would just tell the truth. And so when I started talking about it only about 3 months ago, it's taken me 3 years to
Hmm.
even have language for this, if that doesn't kind of give people listening to this context of the shame and guilt that families carry as well. Like, a lot of people talk about how, addicts, they struggle with recovery, they struggle with their addiction because of shame and guilt. And I'm like, yes, and us too. We're not speaking either, and it's making us sick too.
Yes.
And so it took me 3 years to talk about it. My very first post that I put up, I honestly couldn't sleep that night. But I just couldn't. I felt like it was killing me. I don't know how else to say it. I felt like I was losing myself all over again. And, I didn't know how it would be received. I genuinely thought that when I started talking about it, I would be met with so much judgment. Um, just, "How did you let this happen? You didn't save him." All of those fears and all of those emotions that I felt the entire time
Hmm.
in that experience, and then it magnified after we lost my husband to addiction, and I have found the complete opposite. I have found the most beautiful community, um, I that I didn't even know I was a part of. I didn't even
Wow.
know that I was a part of that, and I just, I've had hundreds and hundreds of women reach out over the last 3 months and just saying the kindest things. "Thank you for saying it the way that you do. I feel like you're giving voice, language to something that I've been experienced, but I've never been able to, experience that. I just hope that one day I can talk about that."
Uh-huh.
But we're all just I'm also feel like I'm healing because my experience is also being validated. I'm
Yeah.
not crazy. My experience was what it was,
Mhm.
and I just want to honor that. I really do. I just want to honor my story, no matter how tragic and hard and painful it was, and that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. It's amazing because I think the healing comes with that. You know,
Oh,
we don't heal in isolation. We don't learn about addiction, about ourselves, about what we're going through if we stay silent. I
yeah.
think it's the biggest. It's like adding fuel to the fire that's already
Oh,
burning.
it is. It's staying inside of a house that's already I do the metaphor of, now that looking back, I'm like, I was like on a ship that was sinking, and all I
Mhm.
was doing was plugging holes, and
Yeah.
all the while having no control, 0 control over whether the ship went down,
Yeah.
and then realizing that I had to either abandon the ship or go
Mhm.
down with it, and, that's really, in my opinion, how it feels. It's
Yeah.
terrifying.
It is. It's absolutely terrifying. I have both sides of the coin. So, as
Mm,
someone who grew up in addiction,
mm,
married into addiction, and then I had a son go through it. So, as a mom and as a wife, it's like the exactly what you said. The ship is going down, and you think you're doing what you need to
yeah.
do in the moment, but in reality, you're sinking with the ship.
You are. You're
Yeah.
sinking, and everybody I look back now and I'm like and nobody was able to swim on their own. My
Yeah.
husband wasn't, my kids weren't. I was the only one that was able to swim,
Mhm.
and it just, the heaviness of all of that, now that I'm 3 years on the other side of it and my nervous system has learned to regulate and I'm no longer looking in survival mode, obviously, I have new perspectives and new
Mhm.
hard-earned wisdom, and I think that's why I'm talking about it because I'm having conversations that I wish somebody could have had with me,
Mhm.
um, and because it just matters. It matters to me.
Yeah.
Matters.
I couldn't agree more, but I did hear you say something that um it's hard to heal while you're in the middle of it. Like,
Yeah.
talk about that because I think there's so many, I'm not even going to say women, there's so many people
Yeah.
going through
People.
this. There's
Mhm.
husbands, there's siblings of
Yeah.
people who are struggling, but we don't, it's hard to heal when you're stuck in the middle of it. It really is. And you don't, as much as we can listen to information and hear,
Yeah.
there's something that keeps us stuck there.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
talk about that?
Yeah, I actually, was talking to another coach, recently who, her husband became sober, and so a lot of, like, what she does is helping people to choose themselves while in the midst of it,
Right.
and my debate with her was that the only time healing has happened, the only way healing does happen is if someone gets sober, which your husband did, so addiction left the room.
Yeah.
Someone passes away, and so addiction once again leaves the room, or leave the relationship. No matter what, addiction is no longer the elephant in the room that is running the show. And
Right.
so I was able to have a conversation with her around that. You are healing and I am healing, and we have two completely different outcomes. Your husband is sober now, you have your cute family, and my
Mhm.
husband died. But the common denominator is that addiction is no longer the thing.
Right.
And I think that's an important topic because I think a lot of and I do say women a lot because those are the women that I coach, and I'm
Right.
coming from a female perspective, but people think they're healing when they in reality are adapting, they're adjusting, they're pivoting, they're softening, they're buffering, they're doing all of these other things. And I think that the number one thing that has been the most profound for me in this entire experience has been the power of language, just naming what is and what is true. And because I felt like a lot of people would say things like, well, just make sure you're being supportive, make sure that you are understanding, make sure that you are not abandoning, make sure that like all of these powerful words, like,
Mhm.
supporting, not abandoning. And I'm like, what does that
Yeah.
mean to actually support someone? Like,
Yeah.
what is my belief in that? What is my belief around compassion? What do I actually believe it means to be loyal? What does loyalty mean? What does commitment mean? And I
Mhm.
don't think I ever really took the time to understand that. And now that I'm on the other side, I look back and I'm like, "Oh, I have very different convictions, very different ideas." And so I think that that's why my voice and, like, talking about this, building language around what it is doing and what you believe is everything. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you will stay stuck forever. Because healing, I used to believe too was, well, I'm healing alongside him because, we're just trying to figure it out and we're trying to maneuver it and we're going to therapy, but I was not healing. I was I was drowning.
Yeah.
And my life vest was, a buffer, and it was like all of those words that I just described. That was not
Yeah.
healing. Healing did not happen until addiction was no longer running the show.
Right. I'm on that, and there's different levels of that too.
Oh,
Everyone's
yes.
experiences, how they handle it. But I could not agree more with the adapting.
Yeah.
And the problem is that when you're adapting, and that no judgment to anyone out there who is
Oh,
in this situation,
no.
it is difficult on the best days.
Mhm. On
But
the
I
best days,
also
yeah. On
I
the best
also
days.
found too that I had a hard time healing while I was involved
Mhm.
in the active stuff because
Yes.
your focus is it's just elsewhere. And to honestly provide, to really live up to those words that you just described, that has to
Yeah.
start within. And how do
Mhm.
you manage that when you're trying to manage everything else?
Yeah.
You can
Yes.
only just touch on those things. You
Mhm.
can't truly heal, like you said, you can't
Yeah.
truly heal inside until addiction is no longer a part of your world. And unfortunately,
It
I
is.
have seen women, I've been in Al-Anon rooms and I've
Yeah.
seen women who are coping and learning to
Mhm.
have strategies and
Yeah.
all the power to that because they're choosing to stay.
Mhm.
And that no judgment on
No
anyone, but
judgment,
it is
no.
really difficult.
Well, and, to kind of piggyback off of that wisdom that you just brought, at no matter what, if you choose to stay, I stayed for 16 years, I
Mhm.
lived that, but I was always bracing for when it would crumble again,
Yeah.
always, and even when we have, and I think that that's, very big misconception, like, when I first started talking about it, people would, say things, typical things, "Well, if you didn't like it, you should have left. You chose it to, focus on yourself and not the addict. You're codependent. Did you enable him? And once again, those kinds of comments are, always they're being directed at the person that is doesn't get to choose really unless we
Yeah.
choose to, leave. And there's just a lot of layers to that. And I think that no matter what, when damage has happened, trust has been uh,
Mhm.
meddled with, and you've lost respect for someone, that which is what addiction does. It
Yeah.
destroys trust. You do lose respect.
Yeah.
Those are all just realities. We don't like talking about it, but what replaces them is tolerance.
Yes.
And tolerance is, I mean, you have to actively work to get trust back and respect back and all of
Mhm.
that, but you're bracing for the next blowout, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, no, it's true. I think the one word that really impacted me when addiction was no longer a part of my life and I
Mm,
could really dig deep and start the healing process in a totally
yeah.
different way than I had before was my hypervigilance
Mm,
started to
yes.
go away. And I was like,
Yes.
I am no longer on edge all the
Yeah.
time or
Oh my
looking
gosh.
and waiting for
Mhm.
that bomb to drop.
Oh
That
my
was something
goodness.
that really, really impacted me, and it's been 3 years as well since my son
Mm.
got into recovery and he's doing fantastic.
I'm
But
glad.
that one thing, being hypervigilant all the time, no matter what state you're in, you're always alert. You're
Uh,
constant in a state of fight or
Fight or
flight.
flight. You
Yeah.
really are. But I think just naming that, like you said, like naming, I've even had to sat down and say, what is codependent? Were you codependent? Were you enabling? Well, like, and because I had to come to nothing heals in the dark, and I had to do a lot of pulling apart of language and what that actually meant for me, our story, and I think that's really important.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What was really the catalyst for you? Like, why, after so long, why did you feel that it was time to speak up?
Um, we had just we're a military family, so
Mhm.
we only had about a year left. We were going to retire after 20 we would have retired at 21 years, and,
Yeah.
we had just had this new baby, Ava. She just turned 4, on January 4th. So we had her in January 2022. We were not planning on having another baby. She was, kind of our fifth wheel that was like, "Okay, here she's coming." Super excited, but I ended up having a really scary, C-section. It
Mhm.
was, I had placenta increta. If people don't know what that is, it's like when your uterus is growing with other organs. And
Oh,
so,
okay.
you can bleed to death. They gave me about a 60% chance of not making that
Oh, wow.
surgery. And she came about 10 weeks early. It was a really scary event. So I had
Mhm.
her in January, and I had to have a full blood transfusion. It was my 5th C-section, but I ended up having it not horizontal, but cut
Oh,
from belly button down to
vertical.
pubic bone, and then also having a full hysterectomy because, it to save my life. So I had this traumatic event, and for the first time in my life, I was very aware of how much I wanted to live
Yeah.
and how needed I was for my family because I had a 60% chance of not making that surgery. I just was awakened to what happens if I'm not here?
Yeah.
What's gonna happen to my kids? Like, and so I feel like at that point, my tolerance for trying to manage what addiction had done to my family, and it wasn't going away, I just hit this wall where, the value that I had for my life and the role that I played for my children, and it's like all of a sudden the lights went on for how essential I was.
Yes.
And that was the first time that I was able to just say, "I'm just done." I can't even explain. Just it's like it just a light flip went on, light switch, and I just completely had to just disconnect from whatever choices he was going to make, whether he got better or he didn't. I was taking me and my children, and we were going this way, and we
Yeah.
were no longer participating in this. It just felt like a circus. It was just so up and down. It was just this
Yes.
game, and the rules changed all the time, and every time I felt like I got placed back on the board to play the game again. Because in addiction, you have good seasons. You have moments where you're like, "Oh my gosh, I think that this is actually gonna get better. I think that we're gonna get through this," and then the board flips, you come back to the board, and you don't have the same pieces to play the next round, and I feel like when I got back on the board again after having my daughter, that 5th baby, and having that awareness, I realized that the pieces I was putting back on the board were not the same, and I no longer desired to play the game anymore.
Yeah.
I just was done.
Mhm. It's
Now
so profound.
yeah, and that does dismantle the family dynamic.
Mhm.
It changed the direction that my family was going. It was terrifying. I've never been more terrified in my whole life, but I wanted my life. I
Yeah.
valued my life, and I think that was the big difference that I started naming what this was doing to me and the cost.
Mhm.
I
Well,
think
no,
oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, I was gonna say, I think the other thing that also was a light bulb for me was I started to picture my children, getting married, moving
Mhm.
out, having families of their own, all the things that you want as a mom,
Yeah.
and then me staying behind and starting to ask myself, instead of saying, but what if he gets better? What if he gets better? Because there was always that hope, right? That kind of kept us
Yeah.
stuck. But getting back into my, what if he doesn't? And everybody moves on and does their life. And you are here in this loneliness,
Mhm.
just surviving. And
Yeah.
that loneliness, I can't even describe it. It just felt so dismantling, paralyzing.
Yeah. It is completely paralyzing. When you're in it, it's so hard to see the other side, but
It is.
that I mean, and what you just spoke about, the question is, why do women, I'm just using women, same thing, because I'm a
Yeah.
woman, I can only go from my own
Yeah.
experiences.
Right.
Why do we stay so long? Like, why does it take that huge epiphany moment or that breaking point where we're like, okay, I've had enough? Because I had the same thing, but it took me years
Yeah.
and a lot longer than you. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know what kept me there. I just was telling myself these lies,
Yeah.
really just feeding the need to, for everything to just be, just stay. I just needed stable.
Yeah.
It wasn't even looking for better at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it
Disability.
takes women so long to really have that awakening. Why do you think that is?
I remember having uh, a conversation with a mentor. I've had a couple different mentors, and I remember he asked me basically that question. What were you
Mhm.
trying to do? Like, what did you think would happen if you
Yeah.
stayed and you tried to hold everything together? You're keep plugging the ship and no one's abandoning, you're just drowning alongside all of this. And I said, I just was trying to keep the peace. I was just trying to keep things stable.
Yeah.
And he said, and all the while feeling, and I sat there for a second and I said, anything but peace,
Yeah.
anything but stability. It was the
Okay.
complete opposite of what I was doing. And what I have learned through all of this is that I just hate to admit it because I just I think if somebody else will choose us, then we don't have to choose ourselves.
Mm,
And I think that, we all love to sit as human beings and spout out self-love and self-respect and, me first. And everybody loves to have that language, but very few people are doing that. Very
yes.
few people. And I could do that in areas of my life.
Hmm.
But when it came down to being the person that really chose herself and being stability, like, and that's why I'm saying language for me is so powerful now because I am peace. I am stability. I am the safe space. Nobody needs to create that for me. And I think women stay because they are looking for something outside of themselves because they haven't decided yet that they are that. And when you are that, it's, it just changes everything.
Yes.
It just changes the whole game. It changed the whole game because I don't need to play that game. That game, I know what that game does. I'm just a completely different person than I was 3 years ago, and it is because I have been able to tell the truth without buffering it, softening it, and have language around it, and then sit with that. That's painful. I am 100% responsible for my life's experience, and so is my husband.
Yeah.
And
100%.
there's things that I love about that. Some days it feels empowering, and some days it feels like, "What the hell, Joanna? Girl, like, you knew better." And that's a lot of what I when I coach my women, your intuition is never wrong. I tell my girls all the time that we all lie. Everybody lies. We say things that we don't mean. We don't
Hmm.
say things we should say. We say things out of context to protect or whatever we're trying to do. But the reality is energy doesn't lie. That is the only thing that is true. And so you can feel something and then try to make sense of it in your head, which is what I spent 16 years doing. I know that this is wrong.
Yeah.
I know that this is literally killing me. I lost my thyroid over this. A year after my husband passed away, I had a full thyroidectomy because within a year, I had a tumor that grew so big that it wrapped around my windpipe and was growing down into my chest. That is not a coincidence. That
No.
is everything surfacing and my body finally saying enough. And we hold all of that. And so your energy and what you this is your truth center, your heart, and but we try to make sense of it in our head, and that's where we get stuck. And so
Mhm.
you have to come back to I just started listening to my heart more than my head
Yeah.
to make decisions where I was like, this is not right. This is not okay. I am not okay. Like this is not and if I choose to stay here, can you be okay with that?
Yeah.
Can you be okay with if nothing changed, can you be okay with that? And the answer was a no.
Yeah.
And I think that when women get stuck is you're not choosing between pain and a happiness. Both were painful. Dismantling my family and taking my kids and I out of the equation and separating and divorcing my husband 5 months before he passed away from his overdose was the most painful decision I have ever had to make, ever.
Mhm.
That was painful. That was not me choosing happiness over pain. It was choosing a pain over a pain.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And I think that when women can name that, um, you can at least make it different. Choose something. I don't tell anybody what to choose. You've got to be responsible for your own life's
Mhm.
decisions, and just like I am. But I think when you can know, oh, me choosing something is not like even sobriety. That's painful because you have to
Yeah,
face yourself. That you have to
exactly.
realize that you are the only one that chose it, created it, kept it alive. You're the only one that can heal it. You are your problem and your solution. There you
Yeah.
go, and that's painful, but that's a hell of a lot better than staying in active addiction, and so I think it's just choosing swapping out a pain for a pain.
Yeah. And everything you just said too, the choices are hard, but when you face that and you accept personal responsibility for yourself and you start actually doing the work and being honest with yourself and being
Yeah.
truthful to your heart, what's on the other side is so much easier. I don't know why we struggle so long in that pain. And like you said, choosing the pain, choosing your
Yeah,
different levels of pain.
yeah,
But once you actually face that, which is the hardest thing,
mhm.
but the work on the other side brings you to such peace.
V
We think it's
Yeah,
easier when we're in it. We're like, no,
no.
I just want to keep the peace, keep it level, like you said. But
All the
that
while
is
not
so,
feeling peace, yeah.
yeah, so painful.
Yeah, oh, 100%, and I'm gonna piggyback on your wisdom again too, which is that, I realized through all of this that pain pain is inevitable. That's the
Yeah.
human experience, right? Like everyone you are not going to not feel pain in your life
Right.
because there will be things that you choose that will create pain. There will be things that happen to you that are out of your control that create pain. But I have really worked hard on shifting my perspective on suffering.
Mm,
What I was trying to do was prevent suffering. I was trying to prevent his suffering. I was trying to prevent my children's suffering. I was trying to prevent my suffering. All the while, I was suffering. And it was never mine to prevent suffering. In fact, I think that suffering is a part of healing.
yes.
My husband was going to have to suffer and feel pain in order to heal. And it just I think that when we can detach from people's it's not wrong for people to suffer. Now you
Hmm.
get to decide how long you suffer. I still feel pain, but I'm not suffering anymore. There's a
Yes.
very big difference. And the only time I was suffering was when I was trying to prevent it, trying not to feel it, trying to, and so I
What an
worked really hard,
oxymoron for sure.
right? And so when I coach my women, what I have learned is that when you feel something, you better start paying attention
Yeah.
because that is your nervous system, that is your soul saying something is not okay. And the addict is going through the same thing. I follow obviously diving a lot more into addiction and people that are on that side of, I
Hmm.
am an addict. This is what I experienced. And it was a lot of pain and suffering and depression. I'm like, yes. And I felt all of that too as a spouse.
Yes. It's
But
hard. We get lost. We get forgotten
yes,
about sometimes,
yes.
right? And
Oh my
that's,
gosh.
yeah.
Yeah. But I tell my women all the time that, you're going to feel pain, but suffering is a choice.
Hmm.
Suffering is a choice. And choosing to get better will cause you some suffering. But then how long that will be, predicated on
Yeah.
choices and what needs to be unraveled. I felt suffering because I chose. to start healing and
Mhm.
to start dismantling all of this, but I don't feel like I'm suffering anymore. I feel
Yeah.
pain.
Yeah.
And I think that that has been a very big aha moment for me, that in
Yeah.
my attempt to prevent suffering was only stoking the fire
Yeah.
to all of it.
Which is such a I mean, it's like, the crazy train just gets faster, right?
It does.
And you just yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it really is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a question for you because I know your kids are younger too,
Mhm.
and I think this is not no one's talking about this and how you talk to your kids, especially when they're younger, because as a mom, you're trying to cover this up, you're trying to
Mhm.
protect them or what you think is protecting them.
Right.
Just the same thing as what you were talking about before in the suffering. But how did you talk to your kids and how do you guys move forward with that kind of language in your home?
Yeah. I love that question, because, it's so important, it's not talked about,
Yeah.
and, um, I think the thing that set me up for better success. I'm not saying that I'm successful. I'm pulling it apart just like anybody else. But I think
Right.
that the one experience that set me up for at least thinking about it differently was about a year and a half before, um, or maybe 2 years before my husband passed away. We were we were living in Spain at the time. I have to tell this
Uh-huh.
story because I feel like it's significant. And, it was during, COVID, a lot of shutdowns. We weren't going anywhere, especially overseas. You just weren't going anywhere. It
Yeah.
was really hard. And I'd spent the day, I thought the new Marvel movie was out, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna clean my house, make it beautiful." I made homemade chicken noodle soup. I went to the store, I got ice cream, mint chocolate ice cream, and we're just gonna have this beautiful family experience, and everyone was just gonna be at least happier over the weekend. And I'd worked so hard all day.
Mhm.
And we sat down to watch the movie, everybody ate, and my husband excused himself. I gotta go check something, and he was gone for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, and he came back, and I just instantly knew
Mhm.
that he had, you know, chugged some whiskey. Fire whiskey was his choice of alcohol, and he sat down on the couch, and I just felt so defeated,
Yeah.
so defeated, and I just thought I said, can you just not tonight? Can we just do the family thing?" And, his response was some angry words to everyone in the family, no physical nothing physical, but words are powerful, and energy is powerful, and it was enough to
Yes.
move me from the situation into my room, and I just felt so disheartened, and I was in there for maybe 5 minutes, and I heard this little soft knock at the door, and my little Eli, I don't wanna cry,
Mhm.
came in, and he was about 9 at the time, and my back was towards the door, and he said, Mom?" And I said, "Yeah, bud," and he said, "You can leave." And I didn't know what he was referring to. I genuinely thought he was saying, "If you wanna go for a walk, we could go do
Yeah.
something." I said, I'm just not but I'm not up for that right now, if I'm okay." And he said, "Mom, you can leave. I know dads aren't supposed to act like that."
Aw.
And he shut the door and he walked down the hall, and my soul, like, just crumbled.
Mhm.
And it was the first time that I had to admit, even though I had other experiences where I was like, "I think my kids are feeling this," but I didn't want to come to that reality like most, women, and trying to
Mhm.
keep everything together. But for the first time, I had to acknowledge, this is happening, and I'm absorbing it, they're absorbing it. And so after my husband passed away, my same child, he's my second. I have a daughter, 2 boys, then 2 more girls. My
Uh-huh.
little Eli, he's like my mini me. He looks like
Yeah.
me, he acts like me. He's my mirror. He's just my mirror.
Yeah.
And my husband had gone for about a year, and we were driving to soccer practice, and he said, out of the blue, he said, "Mom, how did my dad die?" Because we had not really, really had that conversation.
Yeah.
And before I could say something, my heart kinda just stopped me, and I asked a question instead. I said, "How do you think he died?"
Mm.
Rather than just say, "Well, he did it," I
Right.
decided that I wanted to meet him where his soul and his where he could hear where he was at for a 9-year-old versus, a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, I think he took something." And I said, "Well, what do you think he took?" And he said, "Well, I think he drank something." He's like, "I think it's called alcohol, is it?" And I said, "Yes, it is." And then he kind of sat there, and I said, alcohol, it's not healthy for your body, and it can make your heart stop." And
Mhm.
then he sat there, because then I could feel the confusion within him, because here you are, you have a person you love who's taking something that is clearly not good for you, that could stop your heart. Why would you do that? Why would you choose
Yeah.
that? I could feel like that was what was going on in his mind.
Mhm.
And then he said to me, he said, because he said, "Do you think he thought it was root beer?"
Aw.
And I said, "No, no. It was alcohol. He knew what he was taking." And then he said, "Do you think his friends gave it to him?" And I said, "Well, I mean, he definitely drank with some friends." And then he sat there and he thought about it for a couple seconds, and he said, "Well, I hope he knows now that if his friends gave it to him, that they aren't good friends." And that was
Aw.
the extent of our conversation. But I feel like, so when people ask me how to talk to children, I just ask them what they think. Find
Yeah.
out what they have absorbed, because
Mhm.
we children feel things before they can logically make sense of it.
Oh, yes.
And
Yeah.
so I want to meet my children where they're at.
Mhm.
And I ask questions, and they are in the know, because once again, energy doesn't lie.
Yeah.
They are absorbing, they are feeling, they are trying to navigate something that they can feel in their body before they can logically make sense of something. And the last thing I want to do is break that integrity.
Yeah.
And even if that means that the truth does hurt,
Mhm.
I would rather tell the truth in a way that they can handle it. For a 9-year-old, I'll have a different conversation as he gets older and he is ready to handle that. We
Right.
absolutely will. But that was enough truth for him to know that he
Mhm.
could trust me, and that we don't have to lying doesn't protect anybody.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think
that's huge.
I just think that at the end of the day, the truth is the only thing that does protect.
Mhm.
Anytime I didn't tell the truth, I thought I was protecting, but I wasn't.
It's
Nobody
more har
felt nobody felt
people don't
protected.
understand the harm that's done when
It's
you're
more
not
harmful.
truthful. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
and you
was
don't
one
have
of
to
those
get into the
kids.
nitty-gritty. Yeah, you don't have to get
Yeah.
into the nitty-gritty of, like, w meth and heroin and that all you don't they're not ready for that. All
Yeah.
he
They'll
was ready
ask.
for was they'll ask, and
Yeah.
so just meet them where they're at and then have a conversation around it.
Yeah, and I think trust is really built with kids in those questions instead of
Yes.
telling. It's built in
Yeah.
the asking, not
Yeah.
the, well, this is this, and this, and then you leave the
Yeah.
conversation. And
Yeah.
now they're filled with all these other things they
Yeah.
don't know how to process.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and what I found out from that was that my son knew when he
mhm,
said, "How did my dad die?" I said, "How did you think?" And he said, "He took something. He drank
yeah,
something." So he knew. He didn't understand what really, why, how, like, but his nervous system already knew. And so I do
yeah,
believe in that moment I taught him, you can trust yourself. You know more and you feel more than you think. Now
yeah,
let's make sense of
exactly.
it. Let's make sense.
Yeah,
Let's put some language to it. Let's make sense of it so that you don't have to dismantle this in a way that took me a lot of suffering and years to do.
yeah, yeah, 100%. And I think
Yeah.
kids build being true to themselves in those
Yeah.
moments with their parents and
They
not
do.
not softening the blow or fluffing it over, just
No.
meeting them where they're at. That's how
Well,
kids grow into adults who trust themselves
yeah.
and
And we
not.
know that this is true because everybody
Yeah.
talks about childhood trauma.
Yeah. Oh,
Childhood
100%.
trauma. I'm in my 40s, 50s, 60s, and I am healing my childhood trauma. My
Yeah.
mom knew something, didn't tell me. My dad that, and so childhood trauma is lacking truth
Yeah.
of what I experienced as a child.
Yeah.
It's just lacking truth and validity of that experience. And
Mhm.
so I have told my two youngest were Lexi was 3 when Mike
Mhm.
died, and Ava was 8 months old.
Yeah.
Um, my little 3-year-old who's now 6 has a very, very tender she just loves and misses her dad a ton. But my 3 older, I do remember after when Mike died, they would see me sitting at the kitchen counter
Mhm.
trying to maneuver money, and paperwork, and a funeral, and just all of the chaos of all of it, and I remember telling my oldest 3, I remember saying, "I've never done this before. I've
Yeah.
never been a widow. I have never been a mom, a single mom of 5 kids. I do not know what this looks like. I'm absolutely terrified right now. I'm
Yeah.
angry and I'm terrified, and I don't even know how I'm gonna do any of this. And you have never lost your dad. I don't expect anything from you other than for you guys to feel what you need to feel,
Mhm.
and then over time, you will have to decide if this will make you bitter or better. It's
Wow.
just and I'm gonna help you navigate that, but I think that we should all just realize that none of us have gone through this.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so
I
be
mean,
soft with me and I'll be soft with you.
yeah. That's so profound to be able to speak with your children that way. So, like,
Yeah.
honestly, kudos to you. It takes a lot of courage to do that and a lot of honesty right in that moment, even though
Yeah.
you didn't start talking about this publicly for
Yeah.
years still,
3 years.
you
Yeah.
know? But being able to address your kids in that way, I hope there are parents out there who are in these struggles who hear that and that
Yeah.
you don't have to lie to your kids or soften it. Just speak
Yeah.
to them in the moment, being honest about where you're
Yeah.
at. Kids see their parents as these bigger than life things, and they're always expecting you to know it all
Have all
and
the
to
answers, right?
have all the answers and not be perfect at everything,
Yeah.
but guide them in that way,
Yeah.
and when you see
At
your
least have an
parents
answer.
struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're not honest about their struggles, that is confusing to a child.
So confusing.
It's so
So
damaging.
confusing.
Yeah,
And even over the last 3 years, especially 2024 was, I feel like, a very dismantling year for me. I hit that because I think that first year in grief, you're in shock. You're just
yeah,
genuinely like, "What the hell? What just happened? Like, is this really my life? Is this really what is happening right now?" And I think that, that's where women continue the pattern of,
mhm,
"What do I need to do to fix all of this?" Because things need to be dealt with, like a funeral
yeah,
needs to happen or a divorce needs to happen or what, you got to get a job, like all of these things. So you continue the pattern of where do I need to keep plugging holes,
yeah,
right? And after that first year, we got kind of into that a little bit later, and my whole 2024 just collapsed about 2 years
mhm,
after all of that, and I was very much telling my children, I'm very bitter right now. I'm
yeah,
very bitter. I'm not feeling better right now. I'm feeling a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, a lot of,
mhm,
and so I feel like I'm pretty open with my kids and how I feel and how
yeah,
they can feel without judgment. There's no judgment. There's no
yeah,
judgment.
yeah, I think
And
that's
I
so
think that
powerful.
my oldest, her name is Navy. She entered 7th grade. My husband passed away, and we buried him 2 weeks after she turned 13.
Mm.
In the month of August, and she went into 7th grade, and 7th grade is already hard. It's already just like a very
It's a
chaotic
hard age.
it's a hard age, and then her dad just died, and
Yeah,
anyways, about a year after, that happened, towards the end of 7th grade, I picked her up from school one day, she got in the car, and she just had a complete meltdown. I had to pull over on the side of the road, and we sat there for 45 minutes. I did not hardly say anything. I just let her word vomit and soul vomit, and she just
mhm,
spilled her guts to me. And, she just said things like, "Mom, no one knows my dad died." And I said, "Why,
uh,
why doesn't no?" Because she went into a new school, a brand new school. We had to
right,
move in brand new school. And I said, "Why does nobody know that your dad died?" And she said, "Mom, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing how he died. I hate that he died. He wasn't strong. He wasn't, and she just kind of now she has since changed perspectives and
mhm,
shifted energy just like anybody else in grief, but at that stage of grief she needed to just say, this is how I feel. I'm pretty pissed about this, and I am not okay with this, and I don't want anyone to know.
Yeah.
that my dad struggled, and it's and I think that that's just really important, and I didn't even try to fix any of it. I just sat there and I listened to her, and
Yeah.
then we
You
went and
need
got
to
an
let
ice
them
cream. Yeah,
be in their moments, right?
yeah,
Instead of
she yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, none of those emotions are wrong and need to be fixed. They need to
No.
be acknowledged and they need to be
Mhm.
expressed.
Yeah.
Nothing needs to be fixed. Nothing about how anybody feels in grief needs to be fixed.
Yeah. And
It's
coming
all
from a
valid.
mom
Yeah,
coming
it's
from a
all valid.
mom's perspective, that's huge. I mean, I've been trying to fix everything and everyone my whole life until
Yeah,
my son got clean and I was like, "Oh, geez, I gotta get off this train. This is crazy.
yeah,
I can't fix anything, nor is that helpful to anyone else, especially me." So
yeah.
I hope parents
Love
hear
that.
this or moms or whatever. I know where we think we can do it all. So
Yeah,
I
it's
thank you so much for that perspective and being so honest about being the parent and trying to navigate all that. I think it's so huge. We did not have this kind of language in the 80s when I was,
I'm sure.
going through
Yeah.
the same
Oh,
thing. And I remember being very angry because of that.
mhm.
I expressed
Yeah,
myself when I was 11, same very similar to your son in that I remember being 10 or 11 years old and asking my mom why she isn't getting a divorce. Like, why are
yeah,
you keeping us in this situation?
yeah.
And she didn't have the skills or the language. No
No,
one was talking about this.
no.
And so she just carried on just to try to
So
keep it
sad.
together. And
So
I
sad.
became this angry, angry teenager. And so,
Yeah,
like, congrats to you and your daughter. And I know that she must look at you and see someone who is not just honest, but strong and inner convictions and just being the real and raw person that she needs to see as a role model. So that's
yeah.
incredible. And I know she's getting so much out of that from a
I
daughter's
Thank
perspective.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Um, I want you to just talk a little bit about self-love and not as a
Mm.
fluff kind of crap word, because I
Yeah.
think it's gotten this bad rap. And if there's one thing I've learned in this journey in the last 3 years is I really had to tap into my own honesty and my own, but that
Mm.
in a roundabout way, that healing brings self love. And when you
Yeah,
truly feel with yourself, your heart and mind are connected, that this peace that I feel, this is self love. All the little things I do
yeah.
every day, that's self love. It before,
Mhm.
not so much.
Yeah, yeah.
So talk a little bit about that and what that looks like post trauma.
Yeah. I love that because I feel like all the women that I coach all say a universal, "I'm struggling with self-love, self-respect,
Hmm.
self-confidence," all of that. I think I think self-love is truth. I think love is
Hmm.
truth.
Yeah.
And I think that, I remember speaking with my mentor one time and I remember just saying, "How did this everything just feels so, like, manipulated and just love is supposed to be easy. Isn't love supposed to be
Yeah.
the one thing, the grounding thing, the thing that everybody works for?" Or, like, it's the only and he's like, "Just say it." And I said, "It's the only true thing."
Yeah.
And he said, "Joanna, that's love is the only thing that is real." And if love is the only thing that is real, then it is rooted in a foundation of truth. And so when women say, I just want more self love, more self respect, more self um, confidence, how do you achieve that? You only achieve that by telling the truth.
Yeah.
As a health and fitness coach, nothing can be. And I've been a health and fitness coach for 22 years. I had to shelf it after my husband died to do my own, get my family,
Mm.
back. And it was very painful for me to just shelf that and stop coaching. And I'm back to coaching now, but took me 2 years of pausing. But that is the only way to get what you want is to tell the truth. It's not what you want, it's what you need to get what you want. And what you need is to look into the mirror and say, this is what I'm saying and this is what I'm not doing. Those and that's integrity. Integrity is doing what you say you will do.
Yeah.
And self-love is it's just truth. Self-love is truth. Self-confidence is truth. People that are confident tell more truth than people that don't. People
Yeah.
that have more self-respect are people that just tell the truth more than people that aren't willing to do that. And people that start to love themselves more, if you want to say getting sober, are people that are willing to say, I created this out of pain, whatever it is that you want, that you created it out of, but you
Hmm.
told the truth. And
Yes.
it's not that complicated. And the only way I made it ever complicated was when I was trying to move from my heart to my head and say, yeah, but maybe he doesn't mean that. Maybe, maybe this and this and this and this. And when I got to the point where I was like, no, that is not love.
No,
It's
that's
not
not the
love.
truth either.
It's not
It's
the truth. It's not the
blurring
truth.
the
It's not love.
lines.
Yeah.
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 It's just, yeah, that's what self-love is. It is truth. And it is the only, and it's living your truth. It's very
Yeah.
simple. Is and simple and, easy are two very different words. I tell my women all the time, I'm like, getting in shape is actually very simple.
Yeah.
If you tell the truth enough times, long enough, you
Yeah.
will pull yourself out of the rabbit hole.
Yeah. It's not easy though.
It's not easy. Eating
No.
healthy is actually very simple.
Yeah.
The reason you don't do it, or, all the reasons, all the excuses, it's very simple. Getting sober is very simple. You have to stop. There's no other way to be sober than to
Right.
stop doing what you're doing. Period. End of story. You cannot say that you're sober unless you just stop the action. But
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's easy.
Yeah. I know. It's like you just peeled the entire onion away
It's what
because
it
there's
is.
just one little simple truth that
Yeah.
lies in the middle of all of that. And if you want to
Yeah.
be more authentic, you want to love yourself, love other people, it really just boils down to how truthful you're being with yourself.
It is. And I think that, if the opposite of, you mentioned the word authenticity, which is the highest form of frequency and
Hmm.
love, is being authentic. And on the opposite end of that scale is shame and guilt.
Yeah.
And what the foundation of addiction and lies that I was telling was, I don't want anyone to know this. I don't want anyone to think that we aren't enough for him to get better. Because then what
Hmm.
does that mean about me, that I'm not enough?
Yeah.
Well, if you were to ask me that right now, I would say I don't need anyone to get better to tell me that I'm enough.
Exactly.
So it just was telling the truth that set me free.
Yeah.
That I am my peace, I am worthy, I am love, I am light, I am the safe space, I am stability, I am reliability, I am all of that. Go ask my children.
Yeah.
Go ask them. They'll tell you. They call me Batty.
I love it. I
They call
love
me
it.
Batty.
And I mean, you could not have said it more simple and in plain English. It's hard for people to wrap their heads around.
Yeah.
But once you get there, like you said, the freedom. I feel a freedom and peace within myself now. But when I started to have this voice and started this
Mhm.
podcast, it was because I got to a point where I was like, I cannot handle this pain inside anymore. I cannot
Yeah,
keep my
yeah.
throat closed for one
Mm-mm,
more
your throat
year in my
chakra.
life.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I'm in my 50s. This is crazy. I've
Mhm.
lived half my life, over half my life, just staying silent, and it's killing
Yeah,
me in little tiny ways. And the only thing I
yes.
needed to do to have a voice for myself and to find all that stuff I was seeking for so long was just to be honest with myself.
Just be honest.
And I just love that so much. And I
Yeah,
absolutely love what you're doing. I cannot
thank you.
shout it from the rooftops any louder. Keep speaking out and keep being authentic to you. And I know that your family is
Mhm.
going to be incredible because of what you're doing in the world.
Thank
And
you.
I hope you keep doing it because we need more and more of this. Addiction it's just an epidemic. And
Well,
until we
and
start bringing it to the light and start
yeah,
talking about it, especially family members who suffer so much too, we just aren't going to heal from
yeah.
this.
No, well, and thank you for having a platform for doing
You're
this.
welcome.
I feel honored to speak on this, and yeah, I
Yeah,
really appreciate everything that you do, and
thank
and I
you.
honor everything you've been through. I
Yeah,
really do. Your stories.
Yeah. You know, when I started this, I thought, and I still say this to myself, I have this podcast because it's a heart project. This means more
Yes.
to me than anything. If I never make a dime on this, which I don't, but if I never do, this is something that is true to me and I
Yeah.
know makes a difference, regardless if I have 50 listeners or 500,000. It makes
Yes.
a difference to
It
somebody.
does.
So, and that's all that
Does.
matters, right? And one
Yes.
person is better than zero.
Mhm. It's
Yeah. So
100%.
tell people where they can find you because I know you are a coach,
Mhm.
fitness and hormone health. And I think that's so important for women who have nervous systems when you've
Oh,
been through stuff like this. So
yeah.
tell people where they can find you and what you got
Yeah.
coming up.
Thank you. So I rebranded this last year in 2025. I had a business, it was called Impact Academy. We had hundreds of clients and we had coaches, and then I shelved it after, my life kind of fell apart, and I've rebranded to Go Getter Academy.
Nice.
The idea of that, if there's that version of you, if you have lost yourself, it is your job to go get her. No one is coming to save
Yeah.
you. You have to be that hero in your story. You are meant to. That is the human experience is meant to pull that from you.
Yeah.
And so health and fitness movement, I love health and fitness more than anything. Obviously, I have very much magnified the nervous system regulation,
Mhm.
cortisol balance, making sure that you are choosing yourself, because that is the least selfish thing you can do. You are essential, because without you, there is no life. And I believe that with my whole heart. If my husband would have believed how essential he was,
Mhm.
and if he would have chose himself, he would still be here. That's how essential you are. And if you don't believe that, you die. Maybe not just physically right away, but slowly over time.
Okay.
And so that is my whole campaign, and I work with women all over the world, the country. I have clients all over the US, and I'm going to continue to expand that. So, go getter underscore academy is my Instagram. And
Yep.
yeah, I serve women that are ready to come back to themselves.
That's awesome. And I know you have a quiz on your website too, so
I
people
do.
can go there,
Yep.
take the quiz, really get a feel for what's going on for them and
Yeah.
what you offer. And that's amazing. And I want to thank you. I'll have all of that in the show notes too. So
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you.
I just want to thank you so much for coming on here and for really sharing your truth with the world and for making an impact because I know you are. And
Thank
I
you.
just want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. You're giving me a platform to be here today.
Yeah, and I hope you
So,
keep going. I hope you keep going. I know you
well,
haven't done a lot of podcasts, but I think just so many more people need to hear this, and especially about families who
uh,
suffer.
yeah.
There's a lot about addiction, and there's a lot of recovering addicts who are talking about this, and that's amazing. But there are not a lot of family members who come forward.
No.
There's a lot of shame and guilt attached to it
Yeah.
still, and we're
Yeah.
just breaking that stigma. So
I
thank
do
you
too.
for that.
Yes, I love it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
me too. It was lovely to meet you, and
Thank you.
I hope to just keep watching you and keep absorbing all the amazing information that you have. So thank
Thank
you.
you. Well, thank you, friend. And where are you at? You said you were in.
I'm in Alberta.
Oh, that's right, Alberta,
Yeah,
Canada. That's
yeah,
right. Okay,
yeah.
that's great.
So just
Yeah.
north.
Okay. Well, we will keep in touch.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me today on another episode of Becoming Sound. If this episode resonated with you in some way, please share it with someone you care about. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It helps to get this information out to more people who may need it. If you have a sec, I would love a follow on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. While you're there, hit the 5-star rating and give me a review. When you're scrolling, follow me on my social platforms, and I would love to hear your comments and feedback. Have a fabulous day, lots of love and gratitude from me. Please note, the views, information, and opinions expressed during the Becoming Sound podcast series are solely those of the individuals involved. The content of this podcast is to educate, inform, and for entertainment purposes only. This podcast series and the content presented does not constitute for medical or other professional advice or services. If you are in crisis or in need of help, please contact your medical or professional provider.